Hello everyone, welcome to another project that we are going to build using vanilla Node.js or pure Node.js. And this application is a command line tool that measures how long it takes to connect to a website, or we can determine if a certain website is down or not. And the name of the application is called Website Speed Test 2. Let's say that we want to compare two websites that runs faster or loads faster. For example, GitHub and Google. This application will tell you which of these websites load faster or runs faster. And in case you enjoy hands-on projects like this, then make sure to subscribe, like, and turn on the notification bell so you never miss out on our awesome content. With this one being said, let's look at the roadmap. And this application is called Website Speed Test 2, and that is Node.js 2 to measure website connections. We're going to use basic HTTP connection speed. And what you will learn in this project: one is how to use the Node.js core modules like HTTP, working with event handling, measuring performance with JavaScript date objects, error handling and timeout management in network requests, processing command line arguments with process.argv. And in case you are new to Node.js, I have a crash course on our YouTube channel. And these are the requirements. Make sure to install Node.js. Like I said, that we can compare two or more websites, for example, Google and GitHub. And these are sample results, for example, comparing Google, GitHub, and Twitter. We have the following: the response status and then the response time. We have 42 milliseconds for Google, and then for GitHub 78 and Twitter 121. Comparing the result, it tells you that Google runs faster than GitHub, and GitHub also runs faster than Twitter. And this is what we are going to build. Before that, let's look at the live demo. I'm going to open the terminal, and in here I'm going to run the application as Node. And then the file is called speedtest.js. And then I'm going to pass in the website that I want to measure. For example, GitHub, Google, space, Facebook, space, YouTube. Where I forgot to include the .com at the end. So here, facebook.com and then google.com. Alright, with this one, hit enter. And we have the response time. For GitHub, it took 574 milliseconds, and then Google took 578, and then Facebook 602, and lastly, YouTube take 622. This means that GitHub runs faster than the others. And then we also have the status code, which is 301. This means it is trying to redirect to use the HTTPS because most of these websites are enforcing HTTPS only. The keynote here is a response time. So for this one, we can compare two or more websites about their speed and then the load time. With this one being said, let's jump into code. And in case you want to master main stack, I have a complete course on Udemy, and that is main full stack course using Gen AI. So back to Visual Studio Code here, I'm going to have a folder called Website Speed Test. I'm going to open it using my code editor, and that is Visual Studio Code. I'm going to have a file called speed test, and you only need HTTP module, which is equal to require HTTP. And let's have a comment as speed test, and that is pin simulation, and also measures how long it takes to connect to a website. And these are our road map. First one is that we are going to have a function to pin website, and then lastly we're going to have example usage. So let's begin with the pinning of a website. I'm going to use normal function as pin website And this function is going to take in the URL that we want to check. So first step is that we are going to remove HTTP or HTTPS if present. And to do that, we are going to use regular expression here. And it goes like this: const host name is equal to URL that the user is going to pass in. On that, we're going to use replace by using the following regular expressions. And I'm going to log by saying that testing connection to the host name. Then below here, we want to check the start time as const start time is equal to date.now. And we're going to handle the request from the user. And to do that, I'm going to assign to a variable as rec, and that is request. I'm going to use the HTTP module by using a method called get. And for the get, I'm going to use the HTTP // and then the host name. And then comma, I'm going to use the arrow function. And in here, we have access to the response, which is a response coming from our request. And then in here, we're going to have the end time, which is equal to date.now. Then we're going to get the response time, which is equal to the end time minus start time. And let's log the following: the host name, the status code, and then the response time. And we're going to inject the response time. I'm going to include milliseconds at the end. And lastly, we need to clean up the request. And to do that, on the response, we have a method called resume. The next step is that we're going to handle any error that might occur. And since Node.js uses event-based architecture, we can handle such case. So below here, I'm going to say that on the request, we are going to listen to an event called on, which means that the application is ready to listen to any event. And the kind of event here is going to be error event. And in case we have an error, this callback function is going to be triggered. So in here, I'm going to say that const end time is equal to date.now, and then the response time is equal to end time minus the start time. And this way we're going to log the message, for example, log, then backtake failed to connect to, and then the host name, and I want to include the error. So here colon $curly braces. On the error we have what is called the message, and lastly time elapsed before failure. And then here I will need the response time and then milliseconds. The next step is that we are going to set a timeout for the request for 3 seconds. And it goes like this. On the request, we have what is called set timeout. And this one takes in 2 arguments. One is the time and then the callback function. That's going to be triggered after 3 seconds. So in here on the request, we have what is called abort. Then below here, we're going to get the response time, which is equal to end time minus the start time. And we're going to log some message to the user, for example, and then inject the response time, then ms. The last step is going to be the usage, how we're going to use this application. And it goes like this. First, we are going to check if the user is not providing any URL, and we can access that on the process.argv. Let me log the process.argv, and let me open a terminal. And to run the application, I'm going to use node and then the name of the file. In this case, it is called speed test. I can include the extension or I can ignore. And if I hit enter, as you can see, we have the process.argv. The first one contains the Node.js environment. And then the second argument is going to be the actual file that we are working on. In this case, it is the speed test file. And we can pass additional argument upon executing our application. So if I make use of, let's say, facebook.com, and if I hit enter, as you can see, we have 3 items in the array. The third one is our additional argument. This means we can access the URLs in our application. So first of all, we are going to check if the process.argv, if it is less than 3, the user is not providing any URL. Therefore, we can log the usage, and that is how to use this application. So first, it goes like this: process.argv. If it is less than 3, the user is not providing any URL. Therefore, we are going to log how to use this. And it goes like this: usage, and then node speed test file .js, and then website 1. Like that, we can include unlimited website links or URLs. And the next log is going to be the example. So here, node speed test, and then the website, I'm going to use google.com and then github.com. Great. So I'm going to remove this. And now if I run the application without any argument, I'm going to see that log. And indeed, we have usage, node, and then the example. What about if a user is providing a value? This is where we are going to call our pin function here to get the URL. And to do that, we are going to access it as the third argument, as you saw in the log. So in here, I'm going to say const website, because a user can provide many website links. It is equal to process.argv.slice, and then I'm going to pass in 2. So the remaining ones are going to be the actual URLs. Therefore, we are going to look through the website.forEach, and then for each, I'm going to pass in the callback. We have access to the individual site, and this is where we are going to call our function called pin website, and then pass in the URL. In this case, it is our website. It is called site here, and that is it. So it's time for us to test our application. I'm going to clear everything here, and I'm going to test for Facebook, Google, and then GitHub. Let me include the .com and hit enter. And here we go. We have the response. GitHub took 541, Google 567, and Facebook 299, which means that Facebook runs faster. Alright guys, here ends this project.